Hey guys, on today's video we're going to be talking about the new James Bond movie No Time to Die that just dropped last week in theaters. And I have a feeling most of you might have caught it already. If not, well, that's what I'm here for, right? Also, because Craig is such a big Liverpool fan, I thought it was only fitting that I don my kit today as a show of respect. So I guess the main question most people will be asking is this a fitting end to, James Bond in the Daniel Craig era? And I think for the most part, that is a fair statement to make. It's not perfect by any stretch, but I think that this Bond movie took a lot of risks that perhaps we would have never seen in the past. And I can respect them for doing that, but certain things worked while others kind of didn't, in my opinion at least. Now, in the Daniel Craig era of James Bond, we've seen 5 movies, this being the 5th entry, and they're kind of all staggered together, Individually, they work as movies, some better than others. But if you want to get the real, juice out of this series, you kind of have to watch all of them because especially No Time to Die takes a lot of, Easter eggs or plot lines that were perhaps started in previous movies but were left to kind of sit for a little bit. So if you want to get the full James Bond experience, I would encourage you to watch all 5 movies. Now, out of all the Bond movies that Daniel Craig's been in, I still think Casino Royale is the best in my opinion. I think a lot of people do. But I think No Time to Die is a decent entry. Definitely in the top 3, I would say, of those 5 movies. But if it was just the first half of the movie, I would say it's right up there with Casino Royale. But unfortunately for me, the excitement kind of tapered off towards the end of the movie. Also guys, I'm going to be getting into spoilers in this review, so if you haven't watched No Time to Die and you're planning to, and you want to really avoid spoilers, this is your warning. Maybe come back to this video at a later date. So in typical Bond fashion, this movie opens up and doesn't let us breathe for the first 10 to 15 minutes. It is we've got the chase scene, the classic chase scene 1, which I think was executed really well. But before that, we are reintroduced to a character from, I believe, Spectre, the movie before this, Dr. Madeline Swan, but she's a kid. And we kind of see a traumatic event in her past, which introduces our big bad for this movie, Lucifer Safin. Yeah, you heard that right. His name is literally a play on the name Lucifer, which I feel is pretty on the nose, but in James Bond, I guess you have every right to kind of go for the most out there name. But yeah, Safin is our big bad, which we will talk about later again. Bond's kind of retired, he's out of the game, and he's finally learning to trust again. We learn very quickly that his past traumas with Vesper from Casino Royale aren't over yet. He's still very much hung up over it, and you can tell from that kind of opening dialogue between Bond and Dr. Swan that this is a movie about learning to trust again. It's a movie not so much about espionage and spy stuff. It's more about human relationships, like building a family again. As we know, Bond was an orphan. The thing I really liked about this kind of opening sequence with Bond is that he's relatively unarmed, he's unprepared. He's finally letting his hair down, putting his feet up, but the moment he gets out, they pull him back in. So he's on the run. I really like this vulnerability. Yeah, he does have his gadgets, he does have that bulletproof car, but he's alone. He's always been alone. But this time he is literally alone. He doesn't have the backup of anyone at MI6. Now, what really got me into the movie from the start was the fact that Bond felt vulnerable. He felt vulnerable, and we knew that there was something larger that was looming over him. There were reports that Spectre wasn't dead, and those reports would come to be true later in the movie. But he was essentially like a wanted man. He was being hunted. So I really like that he had to really, he had to think on the fly, he had to escape, and he couldn't really fight back. In line with the demise of Spectre, that specific sequence and scene was another actress who was heavily promoted in marketing for this movie, and that was Ana de Armas, who looks stunning in this movie, by the way, like ridiculously good in this movie. Unfortunately for the majority of the male populace, she's only in the movie for little over 10 minutes. I was a little bit surprised that she didn't come back, or there wasn't, a classic double/triple cross. Now I'm going to be talking more about the things I didn't like, but that doesn't necessarily mean I didn't like the movie as a whole. I just felt that these negatives are what prevents No Time to Die from being an all-time classic. So as I mentioned earlier, once Spectre is dead, and the way they die is like really gruesome. It's a real exclamation point to say like, okay, Spectre is donezo, we're going on with something else. I was quietly excited that we would get a threat more deserving of our fear, but that never really comes along, and it falls a little bit into cartoon villain territory, and it really breaks my heart to say, because I'm a big fan of Rami Malek, but I thought both his characterization and his motivations in the movie are very, very flimsy, very muddy, and I don't really buy it. And that's such a shame, because part of the reasons why I was so excited for No Time to Die was because Rami was in the movie. Now his goals are something along the lines of, because Spectre killed his entire family in front of him, he's gone insane and he wants to ultimately seek revenge, which he does. He wipes Spectre out. Everyone but Blofeld, but played by Christoph Waltz. But Blofeld kind of is just a peripheral figure in this movie. He does get a really good scene. There's good dialogue between him and Craig, but once again, he doesn't have such an important role. He's more of a stepping stone to elevate this new villain we have, but like I said, the payoff just isn't, good enough for me. But as the movie goes on, I kind of didn't get what he wanted more and more. Like, I initially thought he was so infatuated with Madeline that he wanted to start a family with her, or he just wanted her to be his kind of daughter, because maybe that's kind of how she imprinted on him at the start of the movie. But then we realized there's nothing sexual there. There's also nothing really emotional there. Like, he doesn't talk to her in a specific way. He just kind of wants her to be there. And of course, I didn't even mention the big thing, her daughter, which turns out to be Bond's daughter. So Bond's a dad now, which goes back to what I said about taking risk in this movie, making Bond a family man. If you told that to someone 15 years ago, they would have laughed in your face, because that was the least James Bond thing ever. But of course now, different time, different political climate, different era, which is honestly what this movie is about. It's about kind of, different eras, which I'm getting off topic, but it's a changing of the guard. And going back to Safin and his, plans, he ends up taking the family hostage, but doesn't really do anything with them. It's just very convoluted, and it feels like the character just kind of thought up this plan on the fly. Like, for a guy with so much money, he didn't really think of what he was gonna do. And yeah, probably the biggest spoiler of them all, Bond actually dies in this movie. Yep. Something that we, James Bond moviegoers never thought they'd see, or never even fathomed the possibility of. He goes out in a quite literal blaze of glory. Very conflicted, man. Like, on one hand, I understand why they did it, but on the other hand, I felt like it could have been done differently. I don't know. I'm all for, dramatic heroes sacrificing themselves for the greater good. But I just thought that Craig's Bond, after going through so much pain, so much anguish, deserved a happy ending. He didn't need to die. Like, we all knew it was his last movie, but I don't think they needed to kill him off. But I'm not pissed at it. I think some people may have been, some people loved it. Either way, it got a reaction, and I think if that was what they were going for, then they got what they wanted. But part of me wishes that he got that happy ending, but hey, can't get everything you want. So I don't want to make this review too long, but just another few things that I felt I should mention. I thought Nomi, the new 007 agent played by Lashana Lynch, did a really good job. It's immense pressure to play, even though she wasn't James Bond or the titular 007 in this movie, she still was given 007. Yo, sorry about that, my camera died. Yeah, I'm gonna start charging my batteries more diligently because it's really annoying. So in conclusion, I give No Time to Die a 7.3 out of 10, and that doesn't sound like it's a great score, but I think anything above 7 is definitely watchable or rewatchable. Like I said, it just kind of tapered off towards the end, but that doesn't take away from what I said at the start. I still think it's a fitting end to Daniel Craig's legacy as Bond. So yeah, if you haven't watched it yet, definitely give it a watch, especially if you're a Bond fan. If you're a Bond fan, why haven't you seen it already? But yeah, hoping that this franchise takes a bit of time off but comes back even better, renewed, refreshed, and hopefully we can get some great spy movies in the future. Also, again, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends. Alright, see ya, bye bye.